In the last section, we finished up our delete post action creator and tested it out inside the browser. We did get a little bit of an error because we didn't actually define the type that we were using. So it says delete post is not defined. Let's flip back over to our action creator file. So here's that type right here. And yep, we just never defined it at the top. So we'll go on up and find our type section. We'll say export const delete post is delete post, like so. Okay, let's do one more test. Back inside the browser, I'll refresh the page. I'll go to my post. I'll get my request log up here. And I'll delete a post. Cool, looks good. Now, one thing I want to mention about our current approach, we are really relying upon our refetch of the big list of posts right here to get the deleted post to get out of our application state, right? If we go to this particular post, when I click on delete post, whenever that request is completed, when the deletion request is completed, we automatically navigate back to our list of posts. But when we do so, our big list of posts, like all the different posts that we have in local memory, still includes the deleted one. And so we're doing that follow-up request right here. Here's the follow-up request to fetch the new list of posts, which by now has the deleted one not present. The deleted one is not reflected in this list anymore. So we're kind of exploiting a little technicality here to get around our local state management. I think that to do things correctly, we should really make sure that we update our local state as well whenever a post is deleted. It's going to make sure that the UI is just very slightly snappier for our users, which might be really important if they're on a slow internet connection. So let's go back to our reducer that is recording our list of posts. So here's reducer post right here. We will import the delete post type that we just added. And then we'll add on another case statement to handle the case where we are deleting a post. Now in this case, remember that the action's payload contains the ID of the post that we just deleted. So all we really need to do is reach into our state object and get rid of the key and the value that match that particular ID. To do so, we can use a little helper out of the Lodash library called omit. So we'll return _.omit. We'll pass in our state, and then as a second argument, we're going to pass in action.payload. So what this does right here is it says, look at the state object. If the state object has a key of the post ID, just drop it. Just omit it from that object and return a new object that does not contain that ID anymore. So this does not modify the existing state object. It returns a new state object with that particular post ID not present anymore. So this is part of what's so great about using an object rather than an array for state management. You can imagine that if we were using an array here, we would have to write in like a reject function. So it probably would have looked something like reject state, I don't know, post equal action.payload. So if we had a state object of an array, we would have ended up with something like this right here, which is definitely not quite as legible, I think. I think that omit is a little bit more obvious as to what's going on. And actually this would be post.id. So I do like using personally an object as our application level state. Okay, let's test this out and see how we're doing. I'll refresh the page and we will delete this post, and right away we see that thing just get out of there and we're good to go. Okay, so I think that about wraps up this application. Let's do a quick review and talk about some of the big highlights of this app. Inside of our source directory, I'm going to open up our top level index.js file. Inside of here, we made use of React Router DOM, in particular the browser router, the routes and the switch components, to give our application the aspect or the idea of navigation. We created separate routes for each individual component inside of our application, and we tied each of those components to a particular path. Whenever a user navigates to one of these paths, we'll show this particular component. So the real interesting aspect to this, the real interesting idea is that we're really not changing HTML documents. We're just hiding and showing different sets of React components to give the user the impression that they're navigating around our application. The route component takes a path, and that path can have some wildcards inside of it that we specify by saying colon and then the name of the wildcard. This is a very important piece of application state, and it's one very good reason to think about how to best interact it or integrate it with our Redux store as well. One very good place where we made use of this ID was inside of the post show component. Inside of post show, we made reference to that ID coming from the URL all over the place because we really cared about what the particular post the user ID was trying to look at. One other big challenge that we tackled inside of here was making use of React Router with action creators. So with React Router, we have the ability to very easily navigate around programmatically with code that is written inside of a component. As soon as you start to put code outside of components, well, navigating around starts to get a little bit more challenging. And so one of the best ways of handling that is by passing around callbacks to our action creators that will take care of the navigation after the action creator has completed executing. The other big thing that we took use of, or made use of inside of here, was the onProps system with map state to props. Remember that the second argument to map state to props is the set of props that is going to the target component. And so that makes map state to props a really great place to do some intermediate level of calculation or do some lookup or something like that inside of here. One of the later videos or bonus videos inside this course is all about a library called reselect, and reselect makes extensive use of doing some intermediate calculations inside of map state to props right here. So I really do recommend that you check out that video. Finally, we also, inside of our reducer, which we just took care of this section, we made use of map keys, or we did this previously, excuse me. We made use of the map keys helper in here to treat our state object as an object rather than an array. With an object, we get some very fast, very easy lookup of records, and it also makes maintaining, fetching the same record over and over again much more straightforward. For example, remember how we were fetching an individual post here with the fetch post case? And while we're talking about this, I'm going to clean up the comment we left behind. So with fetch post right here, it was very easy to take all of our existing state and then add in this additional record to that object as well. Now, if we keep going back to the same post over and over, the existing post that already exists inside of our state object is just getting overwritten by this segment right here. So if there's, say, a post with ID of 5 already in our state object, and we refetch that post again, that post with ID 5 will be overwritten by this one right here. And so making use of updates to our state object is so much easier with this approach than using an array, because if we had an array, we couldn't just add on or keep concatenating on these new posts that we're fetching. We would first have to go and find the post with ID of 5, remove it out of that array, and then add in the new one. So in practice, I really recommend checking out using an object to use as your storage for data inside your state. And I also have another bonus video at the end of this course as well that talks a little bit more about some of the fine-grained details of using an object as your application level state as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this application. It was a lot of fun to put together. I do recommend that you continue on and check out some of the bonus videos because there's a lot of very particular one-off topics that didn't quite fit into any of the applications that we covered. And a lot of those topics you'll find are really useful for working on your own personal projects. So I recommend you go and check them out. Talk to you later.